What's up, everybody? It's Conger Live. We're back again with another DC Worlds Collide video. In today's video, we're going through ELSEWORLD strategy. Going to go through all 7 of the deadly sins and all, maybe not all, but most, if I didn't get screenshots of all the buffs you can collect while playing ELSEWORLD to help you pick your best strategy depending on the sin that you fight against. If you're new to the channel, ninja kick that like button and of course subscribe for more content. And with that, let's get into it. You are now watching Conger Live, part of the DC Worlds Collide content creator program. As of recent, I must continue to announce, yes, I am part of the content creator program. I think that my little intro does that, but I want to keep saying it just in case. Okay, so what we're looking at are all the gold, orange, yellow, I don't care what color you call this, epic buffs. They're called random buffs in ELSEWORLD. I'm pretty sure I captured them all. There are 14, if I'm correct. If I'm missing any, leave a comment down below with the details of it, and I will let you know in the response to my comment where I think it falls. Now, this isn't a tier list per se, because each of these buffs, when you pick them, it's going to determine what sin you're up against. And we're going to take a look at the sins after we look at all these buffs. But in general, from the top left to the bottom right are the ones I think are the most useful most of the time. Support ally casts their ultimate. Another non-support ally would join them in casting their ultimate at no cost. An extra ultimate is almost always amazing and a great way to go. But you do need to have support allies in your team to make this worth it. Sometimes you don't get a support in your initial selections, and sometimes you don't really get a support or a good support to join your team. So if you don't have supports, you're obviously not going to pick this. Stuns the enemy for 2 turns at the start of the battle while increasing their attack by 20% until the end of battle. This is one of the best, if not the best, skills to grab. There are a couple situations when you don't want to do this because it does increase the attack of the enemy. Now, if you can eliminate them in the first 2 turns, it doesn't really matter. But there are some heroes, Hal specifically, that can get rid of that stun, and then they're going to be ramped up. Also, any of the sins where they get extra power, this may not be the best way to go because you may end up losing your heroes. But overall, this is one of the best buffs to grab always. Random buff: when allies basic attack deals damage for the first time, unleashes a magical strike on 3 random enemies dealing superpower damage equal. And I didn't get the whole thing because it's really, really long. Usually long descriptions are good. I think it's 170% of damage of power. So this is really, really strong. Any sort of extra damage is always... You always want extra damage. Damage is how you win. So that's why I really like this one. Increase attack by 20%. Awesome. Flat attack across the board. Love that. And then also adding poison or bleed for 3 turns. Now when it comes to the status effect ones, because the next one says add burn or frostbite, these are great buffs. If you can get these early on, then in the purple where you have these synergy options of poison, bleed, burn, frostbite buffs, then those might be worth grabbing, and those you'll see are at the bottom of my list because the status effects are very niche. So unless you have characters that are effectively using status effects, picking the status effects buffs are usually not the best way to go from what I've experienced. If you feel differently, let me know in the comments below. But definitely adding the status effects for free with these increased buffs are great. Allies gain 30% chance to assist. That's always awesome, except for in one of the sins. There's one of the sins that they get turn meter every time they take damage. So maybe not the best there. You just want really strong attacks, but still extra damage is extra damage, right? First time an enemy uses their ultimate, all allies gain shield that absorbed damage equal 30% of max HP for 2 turns. Then next to the right, all at the start of battle, same thing, 30% for 2 turns. Now I like the ultimate one slightly better because chances are they're not going to use their ult right away, so maybe it's not till turn 2 that happens, so your shield's going to kind of last a little bit longer, and hopefully you're not going to take a lot of damage in the first round anyways. So I think it's a little more effective, but starting with shields is still really, really nice, especially in, I think it's the purple one. We'll look at it later as to why that's really, really strong for that particular sim. Also, when taking damage will not exceed 10% of max HP. If you are having trouble where you're getting hit big often, this would definitely be helpful. Decreases the ultimate points spent by front row allies. This is nice, especially if you're running like Lex and you want to keep those shields up, or maybe you're using some sort of off tank that's also giving you some damage output. Lowering your cost of energy is always great because you can get more ults off. Progresses the action bar by 15% when tank ally takes damage. This is only the action bar for the tank, which is why it's near the bottom. But it is nice that the tank can start using their ults more often. So if you can combo these two, decrease the ultimate point by front row, and then your tanks are getting more turn meter, your action bar, you're going to be able to use ults left and right from your front line. So let's say you have Lex and Superman, you're getting lots of AoE and lots of protection, like non-stop. Increases tank character damage by 100%. Well, tanks aren't really big on damage, so this is not one of my favorites, but it's okay. Detonates all enemies each time ally ends their turn 5 times. So not until turn 5 does this happen. And then chances are, it's 15 rounds. Chances are you're not going to make it to turn 10 or turn 15. So this is one of my least favorite ones because I usually end before turn 5. This never happens for me. So I don't like this one. And then gain 6 energy at the start of battle, but all allies lose 15% of their HP. Now this is actually really good. It's at the bottom of the list because I don't like losing my hit points if I don't have to. Although there are times where if you have enough lifesteal, getting those couple ults off at the beginning can be really, really strong. So this is also very situational, which is why it's at the bottom, but it's probably better than some of the other tank ones. So just wanted to go through those with you guys, let you guys make your own decisions as you play. Like I said, the sins are going to matter. Let's take a look at the purple buffs. Now this is organized more like a tier list, but I didn't give them specific classes like S, A, B, C. But in general, the ones at the top are definitely the best purple buffs. Each allied character whose hit points drops below 30% for the first time in battle gains invulnerable 5 stacks of recover for 1 turn. That is awesome. Basically, everybody gets Superman's ability, right? You can't die. If you're ever coming across where you're losing too much hit points, this is going to save your characters a lot. And especially because, you know, if you lose a character, you can't use them again until you use the revive. So I think this is by hands down one of the best. You see it, grab it. At the start of turn, gain 1 stack of Frantic until the end of battle. Frantic is crit plus 10%. So every turn you're stacking 10% crit for every character every time they take a turn. So you know, ending turn matches in turn 3 or turn 4, that's an extra 30 or 40% crit by the time you're done. That's really, really nice, especially because crit also not only does it give you more damage, but a lot of characters have extra things that happen, whether it be status effects or control effects with those crits. So I really, really like Frantic. This is usually available with the bonus against a gold, and I will still pick this over gold options very, very often. Same thing with at the start of battle, defense break and 3 stacks of slow to all enemies for 3 turns. This is great. You're going to slow them down. You're going to get to go first. You have defense break. That's going to reduce their defense. It's a really, really nice. Any of these, like I said, long descriptions are usually a really, really good way to go. At the start of battle, decreases enemy attack by 15% and crit damage by 15%. This is awesome. Just slowing the enemy down, especially on some of the sins where like they get power boosts either in the beginning of the fight or the end of the fight. This is going to help mitigate any of the boosts that your enemy get. I like grabbing that one all the time. 60% chance to advance energy by 1 when the ally's turn ends. Yes, like I said before, free energy is free energy. That's more ults. I like to grab that quite often. In the next row, we got the attack by 25% and crit by 20% for the back row allies. Extra attack, extra crit. always great in this mode. You just want to get more damage to get this done faster. Increase damage by 40% when attacking an enemy in the front row. This is also generally nice to chew through those tanks a lot quicker. Increases damage by 35% when attacking an enemy in the back row. Because back row heroes are generally squishier, I do prefer the 40% damage on the front row first, because they're usually the meatier characters, and it's a bigger bonus. So that's why I have it ordered like that. Lightning strikes for 70% of attack when an ally's turn ends. Free extra damage most of the time. That's always really great. Okay, and the next 4 increases damage by 50% when enemy HP is above 60%. Increases damage when enemy HP is below 40%. Damage is better than attack because that calculation comes in after the calculation. That's like the final say, where attack is the stat that goes in before calculation of damage. So that's why I think the increasing the damage on the enemy is better than increasing your attack. But generally I like the above 60% both for the enemy and for yourself better, because generally I'm choosing skills that are going to have me do more damage right at the beginning, help me stay alive and keep my hit points up. So I'm going to be able to do more damage by keeping my hit points up. So I like the having above hit points. But if you are in the situations where you're getting low on hit points, then the increases attack by hit point below 40 can still be useful. I don't grab that one nearly as often. And then it increases reflect of front row allies by 30% and max hit points by 20%. This is actually a really, really good one. Maybe I should have moved it further to the left. But reflect is really, really awesome. This is especially great against enemies that attack more than once, not single hits, but like multiple hits, because every time they hit you, they're going to get hit with that reflect, and that's going to do more damage back to them. And then of course keeping your tank frontline alive longer with that extra hit points. When an ally takes damage, they have a 40% chance of countering with a basic attack. This is pretty nice, just extra damage, not huge, but often it's a good choice. Then down here we have the increased attack of allies with intellect, agility, strength. Those first 3, those are all decent. They're solid boosts. I don't always grab these. In fact, I'll sometimes grab like the flat boost from the blue, which we'll take a look at, just because it affects everybody, even though it's not as big of a buff. Really depends. If you have 3 or 4 of one trait, then I think it's worth it. If you only have 2, maybe. It depends. Maybe your 2 are your biggest damage dealers, though. Maybe you have Killer Frost and Constantine, so you're like, yeah, I'm going to grab this intellect one. That's completely up to you. It depends on what your options are up against. Increases attack by equal to 3% of max HP. So, you know, the people with more hit points are the tanks. They don't do a lot of damage anyways. This is okay. It's not bad. It's extra damage. But there are better damage and attack boosts than this, which is why it's down here. And then progresses the action bar by 15% when healing is received. Often, I'm not healing. Supports don't always come. And when I do get supports, they're not always healing supports. But action bar is awesome. So I don't pick this one very often, just because I don't feel like I'm getting a lot of healing. I'm usually using shields to prevent taking damage in the first place. But, you know, maybe you find this more useful than where I've placed it. And then on the bottom, these are all the ones where, like I said, they pair with the status effects. Increases detonation damage 20%. All this stuff. When adding poison bleed, alters durations to the last end of the battle. This is great if you are poisoning or bleeding. Otherwise, you know, don't pick these. Increases the crit for poison and bleed. Meh. Right? Frostbite damage dealt. If the target is inflicted with burn, then it does 40% increased. Like, what? So conditional. Not great. Upon adding frostbite or burn, permanently decrease the target's defense by 8%. This one should be all the way to the left if we were to organize left to right being best to worst. This lowering their defense is good. If you're able to put frostbite and burn on, this is the first one I grab when I do that. Sometimes you're stuck between 3 of these options down below, and that's the one I grab, even if I'm not frostbiting or burning, because I may grab the gold one later where I can add frostbite or burn, or maybe I'll get a recruit that will do that. Adding 2 stacks of a dental buff of poison and bleed, that's nice. And then this last one, which I don't like, but is probably better than I'm giving it credit for, ally casts their ultimate. Ally loses 15% of their current HP, gains 4 stacks of strong attack that lasts for 1 turn. So the strong attack is going to make them do more damage. It's only for 1 turn for 15% hit point loss. Like I said, I don't like losing hit points, especially when I'm like increasing my attack when my hit point's above 60. I'm grabbing that one often, so I don't like to go down. I don't know if it's worth it. I want to know your thoughts on that. Please let me know. Okay, so here are the blue ones. There's only 4. Increase crit chance, attack, max HP, and defense. Now, generally, I think that crit chance is the best, then attack, then max HP, and then defense last. I like that max HP because it's going to help me maintain above 60% easier because there's more there. So I'm going to get that extra attack bonus from that. But crit hit, always amazing. Attack, always amazing. These generally you're not going to pick unless your options of purple are like trash. Which, like I said, if you're not having status effects and you're having the choice between these, or like I said, let's say you get the choice between strength and agility, but all your characters are intellect, you're going to take the flat attack bonus, something like that. So that's those. Let's take a look at the sins. Okay, so first up is Envy. Envy in enemies gain 4% reflect for every 10% hit points they lose. So it has recommended characters of Zatanna. Why can't I think of the lizard man's name? Reptile? No, that's Marvel. Anyways, Black Canary and Kid Flash. I think basically like these guys are gonna give you more. That's like they're all healers and supports. I'm not sure. Maybe Bleed does something with why the lizard man, which I never use. Like he's epic. So I mean not epic. He's elite. So I wouldn't use him anyways. Now there is some options over here on the right. Select your team. This happens to be this screenshot I grabbed. As you can see, none of the recommended tunes are there. So did I choose the first one? I think I did. I chose the first one, which is why it's highlighted, because it has Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman's awesome. But that reflect, when they get really, really low and she hits AoE, all of them, she could be like soaking it all up and just dying from the reflect. So single target damage is also really good if you're against Envy, so you're not taking that splash reflect damage back. You can always look at them here too for a cleaner look. If you need to go check, you click the top right when you're in your chance to like recruit or pick your buffs. You can double check. So I like this look. All right, next up is Gluttony. Increases enemies lifesteal by 30%. This sin doesn't matter. Just go with the biggest damage and get it over with. The reason why they have the poison team down there, the poison heroes down there, is because that reduces their healing. So I guess that's okay. So I guess, you know, based on the options here, you should pick the third one, the one on the bottom, because it has both Penguin and Ivy. But this particular sin, it doesn't matter. Just do a bunch of damage and you'll get right through it. That's Gluttony. Okay, Greed. When an enemy deals damage, they will gain a random buff. And that's why the recommended characters are Constantine, Starfire, and Zatanna, because they clear buffs. So very, very clean, clear. The buffs aren't so bad. What you want to do is when you're choosing the teams that you fight against, don't fight against Green Arrow and Flash who do multiple hits, because they're going to gain tons of buffs, right? So try and fight against single target damagers, so that way they're not gaining a whole lot of buffs. And then here I would choose the second one with Zatanna in there, because that's going to help you clear those buffs with her ultimate. That is Greed. Up next is Lust. When an enemy deals damage, they will add a random debuff to the target. So instead of gaining buffs when they do damage, Lust adds debuffs to your team. So this is where Lex comes in, like super useful, clearing those debuffs. I guess that's the same with with these other three. That's probably why they're recommended. Also, just getting some heals is always nice. It shows Kid Flash. So I would be taking the second team here with Lex, because Lex clearing those buffs is huge. Often I would lead with Lex's ult just to get those shields, but you know, maybe wait till you get a couple buffs up, then use Lex's. And here we also have Jessica Cruz, so she also adds some shields. And I'm pretty sure, I'm not 100% because it says it deals damage. So if they only do damage to the shield, like, and not to the character, I don't think they add the buff, the debuff. So shields in general are also going to be very, very useful against Lust. Pride, this is the one. At the start of the battle, damage dealt by enemies is increased by 45%, but this effect will decrease by 15% each turn. So, you know, the effect will decrease. So as after turn 3 they're back to normal, or are they even negative 15? I don't think they go negative 15. I think they just do it. But this is why you have these shielding characters as recommended characters here, because that's going to mitigate any of that early game damage leading off with Lex. Looks like in this particular lineup, I would go with either the second or the third one. Maybe the third one, because Deathstroke's really awesome, but then you got Green Arrow and Killer Frost in the second one. And then, so it's a toss-up. It's a personal preference. Actually, I'd probably go with the second one, because you have 4 blue and 1 green, so you have a lot more synergy bonus. And just kind of see what you can recruit. This one can be troublesome if you don't get any way of mitigating that damage early on, but after 2 turns, the Pride heroes are not a problem. Not a problem at all. Sloth decreases the enemy speed by 15%, but their action bar will increase by 15% each time they take damage. Sloth is probably the one that causes me the most problems. I would not pick that first lineup, that top lineup there at all. Even though it's got a lot of great characters, you don't want Green Arrow shooting his ultimate like 3-4 hits, and then they just increase their action bar like crazy to all of them. You need single target damaging big hits like Wonder Woman down here. Not Starfire, but Firestorm, I guess. I think that just based on what's available and what I see there, I probably would go with the last one, because Batman, even though his ultimate does hit a couple times, it's a big hit. Raven will help you revive if you lose some guys. But yeah, Sloth is generally the one where, just depending on luck of who I get on my team and who I have to fight against, I end up usually having to revive on Sloth, sometimes more than once. So Sloth, definitely, you got to be careful about who you're using. Big hits, Wonder Woman all the way, Constantine, single big hits. Wrath, the last one. First time an enemy's hit point falls below 60% and 30%, their damage dealt increased by 35%. So when they're down to less than 30% health, their damage increase is by 70%, which is why they're suggesting these single target damagers here. So that way you eliminate them one at a time, hopefully, and you're not stuck with against, 5 heroes that are all below 30% hit points, just melting your team. So that's where we're at with that. I'm pretty sure, let's see, on this one, I would probably take... I'd probably take the first one, because it's got the Robin, and it's got Flash. So Flash will help roll back their turn meter. And then you can freeze them out with Bizarro. Although the second one's not bad. And the third one, these are all like decent options. But I think that for Wrath, I would take the first one. So, and that's Wrath. So those are all the 7 deadly sins and all the buffs. Like I said, if I missed a buff on my screenshots, let me know. Leave a comment down below. Which sin is the most troublesome for you? I'd love to hear from you guys. I hope that you enjoyed this guide. This is really more for new players, because like I said, most veteran players most of these sins aren't going to cause us much trouble. I think pride and sloth are the two most challenging until you get the hang of things. Then they're no problem. Thanks so much for watching. Ninja kick that like button. Of course, subscribe for more content. And we'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much.